All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got questions, go ahead and post them. It's either going to be below the video if you're on a mobile device, or if you're on a laptop, desktop computer, something like that, it's going to be to the right of the video. So I always start with questions that were asked up to an hour before. So I'll be starting with David F. today. The reason why I do that is I just want to start with people that I think that are waiting here to see their question get answered. If you post your question, Glenn D, or Jim G, like there's a lot of questions on here that were posted kind of after the fact. Well, I guess Jim G would have been yesterday, but Glenn D, maybe, I don't know if that was last night or early this morning. Most likely they're not here right now. So that's why I start off that way. So just if you're new to office hours, just a heads up, if you want to be present at the office hours to see your questions get answered. So let's go ahead and get started here with David F. David F says, good morning, Q. Please share how to perfect the sequence of clearing the hips out of the way and getting side bend, e.g. tossing the ball to the target. My shots are straight or with hook, but I've often push or pull the ball. So it's hard to say because everybody's going to be a little bit different. There's not one recipe that's going to work for every single person. But I can tell you the most often issue that I see right now with folks that are struggling with getting the body to clear open and getting that side bend that you're talking about. And this is likely the issue that you're dealing with if you're dealing with that kind of that two miss, that push or the pull. So that is coming down steep initially in the start of the downswing. So what does that mean? What does that mean to come down steep? So if you're coming down steep, and steep can mean a lot of things in the golf swing, but what I'm talking about here is coming down steep in the transition. So what that means is as I'm starting my downswing, this club gets into this steep kind of position. So it's more in a vertical type of position. This would be a shallow position. This would be a steep position. So when I have the club like this in this position, this steep position, what I have to do now is I have to somehow get this club on plane and to hit a good shot, or I'm just going to end up just coming down sharply, steeply down into the golf ball, kind of an over the top kind of motion. So what generally tends to happen when you get this steep swing is you'll tend to kind of stand up, right? So when I stand up, look what happens to the shaft, right? It gets shallow now, but the problem is that I've stood up in the swing, and when I stand up, I can't rotate. Right, my hips are moving this way instead of that way, instead of being able to rotate. So I stand up, and my club's now shallow. I'm swinging probably pretty close to on plane, but now I have to throw my arms at the club, flip as I'm coming through impact, lose a lot of forward shaft lean. I'm going to be adding loft. I'm probably going to hit some thin shots, may hit some chunk shots, and things like that. So ideally, what you need to do is you need to get this club shallowing out. But let's talk about first about how this can cause the two misses that you're talking about, the pull and the push that you mentioned. So how it can cause the pull is if I'm starting down steep and I just stay steep and I swing to the left. There's your pull, right? So if I swing to the left and my face is also in the direction, in that direction, it's lined up with my path. My face is going in the same direction of my path. I'm going to hit that pull if I start down steep and I stay steep. Now, if I start down steep and then I compensate, but what happens a lot of times is we overcompensate, right? We feel this club coming down really steep, and then we really stand up. Now the club's coming in way from the inside. It's shallowed out really, really late. Now I'm swinging out to the right, and if my face is in the direction of my path, I'm going to hit the push from that direction. So that's how it can cause those misses. It can also cause slices, right? Because if I come down steep, I swing to the left with an open face, there's a slice. If I come down steep, I overcompensate. I swing to the right with a closed face. There's my hook. So it can cause all kinds of misses that can be going on. And this is really the most common thing that I see. Now, I don't know if this is your issue, David, but very likely based on what you're saying, it's probably what's going on. So I look at your swing on video and see the position of this club. So that's all great. How do we get this club to be shallowing out now? How do we get it to where it's not steep anymore? And that's what the move is. The move is getting the club on plane as soon as possible and getting the club face square as soon as possible. And the way that you do that is to really, really exaggerate it initially, because that's what we're trying to do in the move initially. Because we're not just trying to get you to get it on plane. I want you to get it like this. I want you to really get it shallowed out and really get the face basically closed and start hitting smother hooks. So really get that club as you're rotating, get that club working from the inside and hit those balls that start to the right and curve to the left. Once you start feeling that compression, I'm telling you, when you do this, you're going to feel this ball smashing on the club face. It's going to feel like it's a trampoline just exploding like a rocket off the club face. Once you start feeling that, then you can start to ease off of that a little bit, ease off of that smother hook that you're trying to hit. And that's what you do later in the move. So the move is getting this club shallowed out and getting this club working from the inside and getting this club face squaring earlier in the start of the downswing. So now I don't have to make any compensations. I can just rotate into contact. I don't have to stand up to get it back on plane. I can rotate into impact and get those good impact positions that we're all looking for. So that's going to come from turning the door. We talk about turning the doorknob in the start of the downswing. So if you imagine I'm turning a doorknob to the right with both of my hands here, that's the feeling that you want to have. And when I'm doing that, what is my trail arm doing? It's externally rotating, right? My forearms are rotating. My lead arm is internally rotating, and my wrists are rotating. So it's all these movements here. We kind of try to put it into one kind of feeling that's turning the doorknob to the right. So that's that first piece of the move. And then the second piece of the move is the twisting of the handle. So that's this wrist motion. So we have this right here, which is flexion of the lead wrist. And then we have extension of the trail wrist. We put those together and we have, you can see, watch my club face. See how it turns? That's from me twisting it like that. So if I get it to where I'm shallowing out, I'm twisting that handle. Now I'm in a position where I can just rotate into contact, have that shaft leaning forward, have that face nice and square at impact for that good explosive strike that we were talking about. So the tennis racket drill in the move course is probably the best drill in there to get this proper feeling, get those smother hooks going, and start hitting the ball a lot better. So if you're interested in working through the move course, click the house icon. That'll take you to the homepage. Scroll down the homepage. You'll see a list of all the courses there. Select the move, start working on the drills, and stick with it. This is something that I see all the time where folks, they start working on it, and then maybe it's just not quite what they hoped. It's going to take some time and some repetition to get these movements down. All right, so stick with it. Keep working through it. Try to get a little bit better every day, and it can definitely get you where you want to go. Now, lastly, David, like I said, this is what I think is going on in your swing. There's no way for me to really know without seeing it. But I do have some spots opened up for my swing reviews if you are interested or anyone else is interested. And I can take a look at your swing and tell you exactly what you need to do to get you moving in the right direction. And most likely it's what I just mentioned, but who knows? It could be something else. Like I said, everyone's prescription is going to be a little bit different for what they need to work on to get to their goals. So if you're interested, click that Get a Review link at the top of the page. That'll take you to my swing review page. When I looked before I jumped on here, I had 2 spots available. So if you're interested, go ahead and grab those spots. I don't always have spots available. So go ahead and grab one of those spots, and we'll go ahead and get started and get you on the right track. All right. Let's go to the next one here. So James B says, with short wedges around the green, is there a bit of flipping or hand action, I think he's saying, to add loft or spin? Obviously, I know we don't want that in a full shot, but it looks like pros are adding loft and flipping a bit on some of those shots around the green. Thanks in advance for your response. So it really depends on the kind of shot that you're hitting. Now, no matter what, unless you're trying to hit a big-time flop shot or a bunker shot, you do not want the club head in front of your hands. Very rarely do you want the club head like this. Even in a bunker shot, you basically want it straight up and down. So if the club head is ahead of your hands, that's going to make your impact very unstable, and it's going to make it more difficult to control. So in all situations, whether you're hitting a high or a low or a medium trajectory shot, you do want to have some shaft lean. Now, the more shaft lean you have, the lower the shot's going to be. The less shaft lean you have, the less it's going to be. So that's basically what's going on here. I love when you tell someone you're going into a meeting and then they start calling you 10 minutes later. It makes a lot of sense. But anyway, you basically get you want to get that loft in there. There is going to be a little bit of early release of the club, but you want to be careful not to flip the club like this. You want to, if you're trying to hit a higher trajectory, what I would do is I would open the face a little bit and I would let the club release a little bit, but you're still going to be like this. There's still going to be some forward shaft lean. If I'm trying to hit one lower, right, then I would open the face a little bit less. You still want to have the face a little bit open because it's going to help you expose the bounce, but then you're just going to have the hands more forward as you're coming in so you can drive it lower. So it really depends on the type of shot trajectory that you're trying to hit, right? So if you're trying to hit a high flopper kind of shot, then sure, open the face, release it a little bit more. It's not necessarily going to be flip release, like where you're getting the club head ahead of your hands, but you can release it a little bit more to get the ball, to add loft and get the ball more up in the air. But if you're trying to hit a lower one, then you're going to have the handle more forward, kind of drive it forward a little bit more. So what I challenge you to do, James, is go out there and try to hit. It's really actually great practice to go out and chip and hit pitches where you're hitting different trajectories. So you're hitting a high kind of flop type of shot, maybe, and then maybe just a higher trajectory shot, and then a medium trajectory, then a low. And then you can kind of alternate between those. And if you get kind of this sense and feeling for how you're releasing the club, you'll find that happy medium that you'll want to use most of the time. And then there might be situations where you do want to drive it in low or where you do want to bring it in high, right? So if you're to a short side pin, and it's a low percentage shot, but let's say you're playing match play and hey, the guy that you're playing's got a birdie putt basically, and you're hoping that he misses and hoping you can get up and down, right? You got to play more aggressive. You got to play to the situation. So you may need to hit a big time flop shot to get it to where you have a good chance for par, right? Or maybe you're playing in super windy conditions, right? And hitting kind of a higher pitch shot it's going to be hard to control because the wind's blowing so much. So you might want to drive one in a little bit lower, or you might find that hitting a lower pitch shot, it just for you just feel like you have more control of it. So you may find that is the trajectory that you like. So I think it's just great practice to go out there and try to hit those shots. But I wouldn't try to go out there and try to do the same thing every single time. Have that ability to hit the different trajectories, because it's going to help you to visualize your shot a little bit better too. So Tyler T says, good morning. I'm happy to say that the last few rounds have been some of my personal best golf. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks to the office hours and TSG. What's holding me back is driver distance now. How can I hit it further to keep the consistency I've had? I've usually have a little shape on my shot fade. So if you're looking to gain distance, the best thing I can recommend for you is to work through our 20-minute distance fix course. So what we're doing in this 20-minute distance fix course is we're taking all the pieces that we know that add distance, and we're put them all in one course and made it easy for you to kind of work through it. So the three pieces that we know that help you are, number one is range of motion. So getting a bigger range of motion. So that's getting a bigger shoulder turn, getting a bigger hip turn, getting the hands up higher. Basically what you're trying to do is you're just trying to create more space for this club, more space and time for this club to accelerate. The more space and time you have for this club to accelerate, the more speed you're generally going to be able to generate. So if you imagine, someone who's going sledding, right? So someone goes to the short hill and they go down versus someone who goes to the really tall hill and they go down, right? The person who goes to the really tall and steep hill, they're going to have a lot more speed at the bottom than the person that went to the short hill. So that's basically what you're trying to do, is you're just trying to create more speed or more space and time to accelerate the club. So that comes from getting a bigger shoulder turn. That's in our catapult drill in the 20-minute distance fix. That's from our skyscraper drill, getting the hands up higher, right? So there's lots and lots of stuff in there to help you to get a greater range of motion. Next, we have what we call sequencing. So sequencing would be loading up properly, getting that proper weight shift to the lead side. It's going to be getting some good lag in the start of the downswing and then releasing that lag out in front to get a lot of speed. So we have our sumo step drill to get you to load up properly and get to your lead side. We have the boomerang drill, which is going to help you to create that lag and then release that lag. And we have a bunch of drills as well. We have the grip ripper drill in there that's to you get that feeling of really releasing that lag and getting lots of speed through impact. Our acceleration drill, the half backswing, full fall through, again, getting that speed right at the ball where you want it. So that the sequencing part is another big part of improving your distance and improving your speed to get distance. Next, so that's the second piece. The third piece is our what would be our what we call neural adaptation. And basically what this is swinging as fast as you possibly can, as hard as you possibly can, giving 100% effort on your swings. And what this does is it gets your body to get used to swinging harder, to swinging faster. And when you do that, you'll adapt to it, right? And now that kind of becomes your new normal. So, for example, I've done the speed training. I went through it. I started out at around 108, 110. Went through the course, swung as hard as I could. Got better shoulder turn and higher hands. Got better sequencing in the course, and I got up to where my max speed was 123 miles per hour. So I went from 108, 110, somewhere in that range, to 123 miles per hour. So we're talking 13 to 15 mile per hour gains. That's when you turn that into pure distance, you get about 2.5 yards for every mile per hour. So we're talking about 30 plus yards of extra distance. Nothing to sneeze at for sure. That's definitely a big difference. So I actually, as far as the neural adaptation goes, at the end, I actually tried to take some swings where I tried to swing 110 miles per hour. I'm telling you, I couldn't do it. It felt so slow to me to swing at 110 miles per hour. What was funny though is 3 weeks earlier, I thought 110 miles per hour felt like a pretty aggressive swing to me. But with the neural adaptations, the neural adaptation and the swing changes, the slight swing changes that I made, a little bigger range of motion and things like that, it was dang near impossible for me to do. When I finally was able to do it, it felt very sloth-like. It felt like I was intentionally slowing my club down when I was coming into the golf ball. The first time I tried it, I swung 114 miles per hour when I tried to swing slow. So that's what that neural adaptation is. Now my max speed was 123. My playing speed was about 118. It was about 118. That's typically what's going to happen is your playing speed is going to be a little bit lower than your max speed, your 100% effort kind of speed. So what you mentioned in your question was how can you hit it further but keep the consistency that you've had? Don't be afraid to do speed training because you think it may make you inconsistent, because that couldn't be further from the truth. Because what ends up happening is when you're speed training, it's not about hitting the ball dead straight or hitting the ball with your slight fade, your same ball flight. When you do speed training, you're swinging as hard as you can. And where the ball goes it doesn't matter as much as what the speed is. But as your as hard as you can speed goes up, that isn't very accurate. You might be a little bit wild, that max speed. As that goes up, your playing speed, the playing speed that you are consistent with, is going to go up too. I didn't lose any accuracy going from 110 to 118 miles per hour. I lost no accuracy whatsoever. And the other thing that's going to happen is that when you gain more speed and you gain more distance, you're going to be more consistent because of that. So let me explain what that means. That means that let's say you're playing a 400-yard par 4, and before you swung 90 miles per hour. So your best drives were 225, right? Maybe 225, somewhere in that range. If you absolutely hit your best drive, it's probably about 225 with 90 mile per hour club head speed. So now you're 175 out. Well, 175 out with 90 mile per hour club head speed with the driver, you're probably hitting a very long iron to a hybrid or maybe even a 3-wood into the hole from there, right? So it just makes it pretty tough to make par on those holes because it's going to be tough to hit the green with a very long iron, hybrid, or fairway wood, depending on where you're at. Now let's say you gain 10 miles per hour. You do what I did. You gain about 10 miles per hour of playing speed. Now, instead of, now you're swinging 100 miles per hour with your driver, which a good drive is going to be about 250 yards. So now on this 400-yard par 4, you hit a good one. You hit the same good drive that you hit before. Now you're 150 yards out. Well, not only does your driver go up, but all your clubs are going to go up. It's not just going to be your driver. So maybe from 150 yards before, which would have been just better to be 150 yards out, even if you were the same distance, it would be better. But you're now maybe from an 8-iron or a 150 yards out before, it may have been like a 7-iron, right? Well, now it's like an 8-iron, right? Because you've gained some speed. Right? So now you're driver 8-iron instead of driver hybrid. I don't know about you, but I'm going to consistently make par or have more birdie putts if I'm hitting an 8-iron in approach into the green versus a hybrid. That's how you get more consistent, and that's how you get better with golf. So if you're looking for speed, you're looking for distance, I highly recommend going to that 20-minute distance fixed course. Don't be afraid of the speed training, thinking it's going to make you less consistent. Yes, you're going to be more wild when you're doing speed training, but that's not the swing that you're going out to the course with. As your max speed goes up, your playing speed is going to go up too. And that's how you get more consistent on the course, is having much closer approaches. So you're not going to lose any accuracy when you do this. And the average that we're seeing of people in the course is about 12 to 13 miles per hour gained is what we're seeing on average in the course. So if you equate that to this distance, that's 30 plus yards more that you're getting. So imagine that scenario that I just talked about, hitting 30 yards closer and then hitting one club less, basically, into the green. That could definitely be you in a few weeks if you just work through the program. So highly recommend it. If you do anything, we have a quick start for the 20-minute distance fix. If you do anything, I highly recommend you do that. Because typically we see people gain anywhere from 5 to 8 miles per hour just doing that first piece of it. So highly recommend it. Go to the 20-minute distance fix course, click the instruction tab, select 20-minute distance fix, do that quick start if you do anything, and then get right into the course to start hitting the ball a lot further and getting your scores, your personal bests, even lower. That'd be great. All right, so let's keep going here. So Paul N says, good morning. Can you give a demo on how to drop your hands and clubs at the beginning of the downswing? I have seen tips, and when they talk about letting the lead arm sliding down your chest, thanks. So basically what we don't want to do to start the downswing is we don't want to push the arms kind of out away from the body like that. That's what I see oftentimes, is that we kind of get in this position, and a lot of times it comes from a poor spine angle. So the spine angle is kind of leaning toward the target too vertical, and then we get kind of like this to start the downswing. That naturally makes you want to kind of go like that to start the downswing. If we get more spine angle, right, so we get angled away at the top, now I'm in a position where I can get this club to work nicely from the inside. My hands want to come down in the right place. So you want to feel like your arm is kind of pushing against your chest as you're rotating down. And that only comes if you have the proper spine angle. So that's what I'd be looking at. If you're having trouble with this, look at your spine angle. Make sure I would try to get a little bit angled away at address. Stay stable and angled away at the top. And then from here, it's going to be a lot easier to get this club to work down where I want to. Whereas if I'm vertical at address, or let's say I'm even angled away at address, and then I get up to the top and I'm like this, well, my natural inclination from here is going to be to want to go out here like this and come over the top. So that's what I would really, really look at. If you're having issues with that, work through the Stable Fluid Spine course to get you to where you're in a much better position. So click the instruction tab, click the Top Speed Golf System, excuse me, then select the stable fluid spine course and get to work on those drills. But that's the only way that you're really going to be able to do it. It's going to be difficult from this position to get, because it's just, everything's going to get kind of stuck behind you. So you need to get more like in this position with that stable fluid spine to get you in a much better place. So that's really how you get it to drop in the beginning of the downswing, is 1, spine angle, 2, the arm going across the chest, and that's going to allow you to shallow out that club in a much better position. So Scott S says, good morning, just started system and have seen some nice gains with 20-minute distance fix. Awesome. So thanks for sharing, Scott. I was doing exactly what you explained at the top and top of call and hooking like crazy. Fix that by doing the move better, throwing the hips toward the ball, not throwing the hips toward the ball and rotating, but now I'm blocking it. Any likely fixes. So basically what's going on is you're swinging out to the right with the face in the direction out there. So if you want to turn this into a draw, you want to get that face more closed, and that's going to come from twisting this handle, right? So that's the second part of the move. The move it's really one move, right? The move, if I do it in slow motion, the move is this, right? If I do that in slow motion, here I am at the top, and that's the move, right? So what am I doing? What is the move? The move is, if I break it down into components, I'm shallowing the club, right? So that's this flattening of the club shaft as you're coming down. And then I'm also, if you look from this angle, I'm also twisting the handle, right? So it sounds like you're getting the shallowing of the club, but you're not twisting the handle to square up the face, and you're just leaving the face open. You're hitting those blocks out to the right. So what you need to do is you need to get this part of the move, the twisting of the handle part of the move. So if I do this with the tennis racket drill is going to be a great one for you. If I do this with the tennis racket, you can see here I'm shallowing it. Now I'm twisting the handle. Now you can very easily see how I'm twisting that handle. That's what you want to do. So that's going to be this bowing action with the lead wrist and this flexion, the flexion here, bowing, and extension cupping here of the trail wrist. If I do those at the same time, see how that closes the face? That's what I'm trying to do here. And now I come into contact. I'm swinging this club from the inside, and I'm getting this club face nice and square impact. Now I'm going to hit that nice, powerful draw that you're looking for. So work through the tennis racket drill. It's probably going to be the best drill for you to get that club face closing up a little bit better, so you get that nice, powerful draw. So go to the move course, select the instruction tab, then select Top Speed Golf System, select the move from there, and then you can get the tennis racket drill. It's 1.3 in the move is the tennis racket drill. So Graham C says, hi Q, when I get up to the top of the backswing and start the weight shift to the left side, start knees, hips, starting to the left and dipping height slightly. I feel tightness, lack of space, and movement in right side trunk of rib cage with right elbow into the side and keeping posture and uncoiling. Any advice? Thanks, Graham. So it sounds like your spine angle may not be in a good spot, right? So we need to make sure that we're nice and angled away as we start down. So if you don't have any space here, so imagine if I'm doing my weight shift, right? So I'm doing my weight shift, I'm leaning toward the target. Well, look, if I try to bring my elbow into my side, it's hitting my rib cage. It's all tight right here. I don't have any space. But if I get angled away, now I've got lots of space, right? I got lots of space to get this club to work inside. I can really shallow out the club, get to my lead side. So I would look at your spine angle. Make sure you're nice and angled away at rest. You stay nice and angled as you go up, nice and angled away as you go up to the top. And now I've got all this space right here that I can work it inside. If I'm like this, I just don't have anywhere to put I'm going to end up coming down steep most likely, or everything's going to feel really, really tight. I'm going to have some issues. So work through the stable fluid spine course and make sure that you're in the right position there. And it should help out quite a bit to have that space that you're looking for. So Gufron A says, does lag and straight club release apply to wedge shots? I think you mean shots from 50 yards. Yes, but you're not going to have as much just because there's not as much length of the swing. So if I'm hitting a little pitch shot from this far, I definitely want my club to be releasing out in front, but I may not have as much wrist hinge. Like I'm not going to have, like for a full swing, I'm going to be getting lag. It's going to be looking more like that if I have some great lag in the swing, right? It's not for a 50-yard pitch shot. I'm not going to be like this, right? It's going to be more like in this area, right? So I'm getting some lag that my hands are in front of the club head. If the club head was in front of my hands, it would be right here, right? So I'm getting some lag here, but it's not as much as it would be up here. I was trying to release out in front. It would be more like here and then releasing it out in front. So you definitely want lag, some lag, and you definitely want the straight line release for your short shots. It's just not going to be as much lag because there's not as much time and space and speed to be able to generate that kind of lag. And it's not necessary either. It's not necessary for a 50-yard shot to have a ton of lag, because a 50-yard shot, what are you trying to do with a 50-yard shot? You're trying to hit it exactly 50 yards, right? Whereas if you're hitting a full swing shot, right, you're typically trying to hit it, you want to hit it a certain distance. And obviously with your driver, basically you're trying to hit it as far as you can. But, if you're hitting your 8-iron and you hit your 8-iron 150, you're trying to hit it 150. But if it's a full swing, you're trying to consistently get that amount of lag that you need to hit it a good distance and hit it the same distance. But with a 50-yard shot, we're not looking to get a ton of lag because it's just not necessary to get all that speed. Now you could for a pitch shot try to get this much lag and do that, but it's just not something you're going to typically see on shorter shots like that. You could do it, but it's not something I would really recommend. All right, so keep the questions coming here. We got a couple more, about 30 minutes left in the office hours here, so we got a few more right now, and we'll get these answered. So Louis V says, please explain how left and right scapula should work in the backswing to help with more turn. So scapula, just to help you understand what that is, that's basically your shoulder blade bones, right? So they can move independently of basically of your rib cage. So if you imagine here, it's called protraction and retraction of the shoulders. So if I have protraction, which is going to be the shoulder blade moving away from the spine, protraction. So you can see my lead shoulder here is going forward. That's protraction. Retraction is shoulder blade moving away from the spine, toward the spine. Shoulder blade moving toward the spine is retraction. So when I go back in my backswing, if I'm right-handed, my lead shoulder is going to protract. My shoulder blade is going to move away from the spine, right? And my trail shoulder is going to retract. My shoulder blade is going to be moving toward the spine. And that's going to allow me to get a little bit more length in my swing. So if you basically, here's where the rotation comes from a tour player. It comes from the pelvis rotating, right? So we're talking about the separation of basically, let's say your feet, your ankles, the separation of your ankles in degrees versus the separation of your pelvis. Your average tour player, you're going to see about 50 degrees of pelvic rotation. So that means in the backswing, I'm rotating my hips about 50 degrees relative to where they started, in line with where my ankles are. So that's going to be about 50 degrees. My next, I have the separation of my pelvis and my rib cage, right? Again, you're going to see about 50 degrees of rotation there. And where that rotation comes from is mostly from your thoracic spine. It's the upper part of your spine. That's where you're going to get a lot of the rotation. So you see, if I keep my hips, my pelvis completely still, I can turn my my rib cage about somewhere in the neighborhood about 40 degrees. Your average tour player is going to be about 50 degrees. So I've got 50, 50, and then I'm going to get another 20. I can generally get about 10 degrees of rotation or 10 degrees of movement from my shoulders protracting and retracting, right? So I go 50, 50, and then 10 in each shoulder, making it 20. Your average overall turn for a tour player is about 120 degrees. Now, I'm not saying that that's what you're going to be able to do. Most of us, including myself, aren't going to be able to get 120 degrees, but that's generally where it all comes from. So if you want to work on getting this protraction and retraction of the shoulders, you can just kind of get that general feeling here. If you stand right here, try to keep your chest completely dead straight and protract, retract, protract lead shoulder, retract trail shoulder, and then try to get that same feeling, right, in the top of the swing. So at the top of the swing, I'm protracting. I'm trying to get my shoulder going as much that way, and then I'm retracting my trail shoulder. I'm getting that to go back like this, and that's going to allow me to get a little bit more, a little bit extra at the top. Now, some of you, most of you, I would say, this is a fairly natural movement for most players. They're going to do it without even thinking about it. But if you're trying to keep your shoulders kind of locked, you may be leaving yourself, leaving a little bit of distance on the table. So this is kind of an advanced technique. If it's not something you're already doing, that we talk about in level 3 of the Power Turn course. So if you're interested, select the instruction tab, choose the Top Speed Golf system, then select the Power Turn, and it's level 3 in the Power Turn. We're talking about getting this protraction and retraction of the shoulders. But like I said, most of you are probably doing this already. And some of you, and those of you who aren't doing it, you most likely have a limitation in the shoulders. Typically, when I see with people who aren't doing this, it's because they've had some sort of shoulder injury in the past, and their shoulders just kind of locked up. So there's not a lot you can do about that unless you want to go see like a physical therapist or chiropractor maybe or something like that. But in general, most of you are going to be doing this without much thought. It's going to be a pretty natural movement. But if you look at your swinging, you feel like, hey, I can get a little bit more protraction and retraction, or it feels like you can. It could be something to focus on to see if it's possible you can get a little bit more from doing that. So check it out. Go to the Power Turn course in the Top Speed Golf system. It's level 3 in the Power Turn course. I can't remember exactly which video it is, but I know it's in level 3 in there because it's one of the more advanced techniques. All right, so let's keep on moving forward here. So Gerald K says, I'm working on the inside out to create a fade, but sometimes I jerk the ball to the left. What could cause me to jerk the ball to the left? Turning the body, casting. I meant draw, not fade. Okay, as I say, that makes more sense. So basically what would cause you to hit the ball to the left, I don't know if you mean you're pulling it to the left or you're hooking it to the left. If you're hooking it to the left, then that means that your face is getting too closed, like you're closing your face too much. So you're swinging inside out, the face is getting too closed, and the ball is hooking. So I would just try to feel like you can weaken your grip, which would mean the easiest way to weaken your grip is just to set it down the way you normally would, turn the face a little bit open, then re-grip the club, then turn it back to square. That's the easiest way to weaken your grip. You can do it you can strengthen the grip too. I wouldn't recommend it if you're hooking it necessarily, but if you're looking to strengthen the grip, you can turn the club, loosen your grip, turn the club closed, re-grip the club, take your grip, then turn the face back to square. That's typically what's going to help you. That's usually the easiest way. So anyway, getting back to that, I would, 1, weaken your grip. That can help you to not close the face too much. And then 2, I would try to feel like the palm of your trail hand here is pointing more out this way, right? So you're kind of coming through contact with the face. I try to feel like the face is open if you are hooking it. Now, if you're pulling it, it just means that you're not swinging in to out, right? That means that you're still swinging out to in, because a pull is caused by the path being out to in and your face being in line with that path. So the good part is you're getting your path or your face in line with your path, but your path is still to the left, right? So you need to get your path working more into out. That's an indication that you're not swinging into out if you're jerking it to the left, if you're pulling it to the left. So John S. says, should the arms power up during the downswing when the club is waist high? So, I mean, yes, the arms provide a lot of power to the golf swing. It's going to be roughly about 85%. This is where we get into feel is relative. It may not be a great thing for you to feel. It may be a great thing for you to feel. Some people need to feel like the arms do nothing, and some people need to feel like the arms do everything in the swing, and some people need to feel a mix of in between. So feel is relative. The reality is that, yes, the arms are powering, are providing a lot of power, but everything's I mean, you're whipping this club through. Your body is opening up, and your arms are whipping through there. So imagine if you were to crack a towel, right? You're cracking the whip of a towel. You know, is the towel not doing anything, or is your arm not doing anything? No, everything's doing something, right? Everything's providing power to snap that towel, but it's a matter of, you know, if you're going through and you're just going like this, right? Well, that's not going to provide a lot of power. You may need to feel like you don't do this at all and you just do this, but the reality is that you will do this. So a lot of what golf is, I know it's kind of confusing, but a lot of what golf is just adjusting your feel to get the desired result that you want. If you look on video and you see that your body isn't opening up at all and your arms are just flying in front of your body and you're just whipping the club through like that, then you may need to feel like you're not using your arms at all and your body's just kind of providing everything. You may need to feel like that. The reality is that hopefully you'll get a mixture of both that gets you in the impact position that you want. So those questions like that are hard to answer. The reality is yes, the arms are providing power for sure, but so is everything else. But what you may need to feel to make it happen is going to be relative to you. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to know what's going to be the best thing to feel for you. But in general, what I see is most people don't use their body in the swing to create momentum. So most likely what you need to do is feel like you're using a lot more of your body in the downswing to get what you want. All right, so Steve B says, how do I stop my head dipping as I start the downswing? What feeling should I be looking for? So head dipping is not a bad thing in the start of the downswing. In fact, tour players, you're going to see most of the time their head is dipping down in the start of the downswing. So I wouldn't even say that is a bad thing. Where you may be leading to issues is that you're not using your legs or getting the club in the right position to open up your body. So it's hard to say without seeing your swing. But head dipping in the start of the downswing is not a bad thing. You're going to look at tour players' golf swings. Basically, every single one of them are dipping their heads at the start of the downswing. Most of them, you'll see their heads drop 3 to 4 inches. You probably heard of the tiger squat or the Sneed squat. They're all doing that. Basically, all tour players are getting down lower as they start the downswing. It's just a matter of getting the club in the right position and using the legs properly to continue to rotate as you come down in the golf ball and to get into that good impact position. So that's what I'd be looking at is the position of your club in the right position, meaning is it steep? You know, if you're dipping down and you're steep, then you're going to have trouble coming down in impact because you're going to have to go like this to come into impact, right? So you may need to get this club shallowed out, and maybe you are shallowing out, you're dipping down, you are shallowed out, but you square the face by flipping the club. Well, then you need to learn how to square the face by turning the handle like we talked about in the move. So get that club shallowed out earlier so that way you can turn into the golf ball. You can stay down there and get that good forward shaftling. So, Steve, like I said, it's not a bad thing to dip. I would be looking at the other things that are going on that's making that not work for you. You have a good thing in your swing. It's just try to get those good things to go with it to get the results that you want. So I would look at your swing, see what's going on there as far as the shallowing of the club, the position of the club as you're starting down. If it's steep, then try to get it more shallow. If it's shallow and you're still flipping the club and standing up, then I would look at trying to square earlier and then rotating more into the ball. And that's the move course. You may want to work through the move course to get into a better position at impact. So to get to the move, select the house icon. That'll take you to the home page. Scroll down the home page. You'll see a list of all the courses there. Select the move course and get started. If you're not sure what you need to work on, or maybe none of what I said is what you're doing, then I'd be happy to take a look at your swing and see what's going on there. Before office hours started, I had 2 spots available, which is very rare. So if you're interested, go ahead and go click the Get a Review page and or get a review link at the top of the page there. Be happy to take a look and what you need to do to get in the better position that you're looking for. All right, so Keith S says, hi Q, I tend to sweep with my irons. Any drills or thoughts on how to hit down? So generally this is going to be tied to the release, and it's going to be tied to your compression line. So this is all about controlling low point. the low point of your swing. So if you imagine the club comes down, right, it reaches a low point and then works back up. So if you're always sweeping the ball, that means that your club is basically always bottoming out where the golf ball is. Your average tour player is going to be bottoming out their club for a 7-iron about 4.5 inches in front of the golf ball. So on the target side of the golf ball. For longer clubs, as they get into fairway woods and things like that, it's going to move a little bit closer to the golf ball. It's going to be more like 2.5 inches in front of the golf ball. And that's just due to the nature of the club. Longer club, bigger swing arc. It's going to be a little bit shallower angle of attack. And some people play the ball a little bit more forward with their fairway woods off the turf, which is completely fine as well. And then as you get to wedges, it's going to get closer to the target. So more like 6 inches in front of the golf ball with a wedge. And again, that's just it's not something you have to intentionally try to do. It's just something that happens by nature of the club being shorter, so a tighter swing arc. And also, again, ball position, people generally play wedges more in the middle of their stance so they can hit down a little bit more steeply into them. That low point is going to be more in front when you do that. So that's what we need to do, is we need to control this low point. So you control the low point with the release, and you control the low point with our compression line. So our compression line is the line that goes from our lead ankle, lead hip, and lead shoulder at impact. So at impact, I want to generally be slightly angled away and have all those pieces in a straight line. If I'm really angled away like this, my club's going to be bottoming out more back in here. This is going to be before the golf ball. If I'm too far angled forward, my club's going to be bottoming out way up here. So that is one way to control the low point, is to control your compression line. Basically, this lead shoulder position at impact. Where is that? And that's generally going to be, that's going to control a little bit about where you release, or where you get the low point of your swing arm. So if you're sweeping, that means that you may be angled away too much, and that's going to cause that low point to happen before the ball. So that's what I look at. I look at your compression line. The next piece I would look at is your release. So when we talk about the release, that's where this club is releasing, where the club is basically passing in front of the hands. You can also think of it as where the club is splitting my forearms. In general, what I typically see in amateurs is that club is starting to pass in front of the hands, or the club is bisecting the arms, a little bit in front of the golf ball. So what that means is basically that club is releasing early, and it's shallowing very early as you come into impact. So if you imagine, if I release this club really late, if I release the club, 50 degrees out in front, if I release it out here, where is my club bottoming out? It's bottoming out more up in this area. Whereas if I release it just in front like that, where's my club bottoming out? It's bottoming out more in this area, right? More around the golf ball. So it's going to be one of those pieces. Now, if you have an early release, then you may want to consider having a compression line that's a little bit more vertical, because that's going to help you get that low point more forward. It's kind of matching those pieces together. And then as you work on your straight line release, and you get that low point more forward by getting the club to release more out in front, then that compression line can get a little bit more in the angled away range, like what we see with the tour players. But initially, you may want to consider, to be able to get more consistent ball first contact, getting that compression line more vertical as you're coming in. So those would be kind of the two pieces that I'd be looking at: the release, and first I would look at your compression line. If your compression line is too far angled away, I would get to where you're more vertical. And if you're beyond that, I would look at your straight line release to get that club releasing out in front, which is going to push the low point more toward the target as well, and allow you to get those nice divots in front of the golf ball. So to get to either one of those courses, now do those in order. I wouldn't look at your straight line release and do that first if your compression line is off. Get that compression line good first, and then go to the straight line release course. And like I said, if you're releasing early, I would even venture on trying to get your compression line vertical, straight up and down, because that's going to help you to get that low point more forward to compensate for that early release, moving the low point back. So to get to either one of those courses, select the instruction tab at the top of the screen. That'll take you to the instruction page. Click Top Speed Golf System, and then select either one of those courses, the one that you're wanting to look at, the compression line course or the straight line release course. Okay. So we got about 10 more minutes left. We got one more question on here. So go ahead and get your questions. I do have to go right at noon. So if you got your questions, get them on there right now, because I won't be able to stay after to answer questions if there's a bunch that come in at the last second. So Steve B says driver, 3-wood, and hybrids are fading. 9-iron and wedges are drawing. Bemused as to what I'm doing. So this is fairly common. So what we have to consider is our ball position with these clubs, right? So what causes a draw is the face, the direction the club face is pointing, being closed to the direction the club head is moving, right? So what that means is if I swing out to the right with a closed face, that's going to be a draw. If I swing to the left with an open face, that's going to be a fade. So your driver, your 3-wood, and your hybrids, you're generally playing those clubs more forward in your stance. So my club is working into out, into out, into out. It turns a corner, then moves out to in, out to in, out to in. If the ball is more forward in your stance, your club's going to generally be moving more out to in as it comes into the ball, which is going to lead to more fades, right? Because the face being open to your path is going to lead to a fade. With a 9-iron or wedges, we're generally playing those balls further back in our stance, and more like in the middle of our stance. So our club head may be moving more into out or neutral as it's coming in. You get the face close to the path, you're going to hit a draw. So all I would try to do is I would try to, if you don't want to fade those clubs, or you don't need to do anything. It's completely fine to fade those clubs and to draw other clubs, as long as you know that's what's going to happen. You don't want to set up to draw a driver then hit a fade. That can end up in a bad situation. But if you want to get to where you're drawing all your clubs, you're going to need to feel like you're swinging more into out with your driver and your 3-wood, because the ball position is more forward. So you're going to need to feel like you're swinging much more into out, much more toward, if you're right-handed, much more toward first base with a closed face to get that ball to draw. And if you don't want to fade your wedges and your irons, you can play the ball a little bit more forward. You can feel like you're swinging maybe a little bit more over the top. It's not the reality of what's going on. It's just a feeling that's going to help you to get that club working in the right direction. So it's fairly common what you're talking about, but it's probably most likely due to ball position. That's most likely what it's due to is the ball position. And I wouldn't recommend necessarily changing your ball position with your driver and your 3-woods. You do want to play those typically a little bit more forward. I would just try to feel like you're swinging more into out. If you're playing your iron or wedges too far back, that could be causing the draw. Moving it a little bit more forward can help you to get the path, neutralize that path, or you can try to feel like you're swinging more out to in to get those to work properly as well. All right, so a little more than 5 minutes left. Like I said, I have to go right at noon, so probably take 1 or 2 more max, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Give you all a minute or 2 to get a question in. All right, so we got another question here. So Louis V says, if I set up completely square with shoulders, hips, and feet, I'm not able to rotate very well, so my shoulders face right. Any thoughts? You don't have to set up completely square. You can set up open, you can set up closed, whatever works the best for you. I just set up in the way that if you're physically not able to get into the position that you're trying to get into with a certain setup, then I would just change your setup to make it easier for you to get into the position that you're looking for. So that's all I would recommend, is just to kind of tweak your setup to get you in a better position if you're physically not capable to get into the position that you're trying to with a square stance. There's nothing in the rules of golf that says you have to be completely square open or closed or anything like that. You can be whatever position you want to be in. The golf ball doesn't care if you're square with your shoulders and everything at address. It only cares about how this club is being presented to it at impact. All right, so a couple more minutes here. Probably take one more if we get it in here pretty quick. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. Gary L says, have a good day. Hopefully I will. I got somebody rear-ended me a few weeks ago, so I just have to get someone dented up my back bumper, so I got to bring it in. Not looking forward to it. It's a pain in the neck. So Louis V says, how was your golf trip? Golf trip was great, actually. We went to, you haven't been to the Pinehurst area. It's fantastic. A lot of great courses over there. They got like 30 some courses in that Pinehurst area. I didn't play Pinehurst, Pinehurst number 2 where they have the U.S. Open. I did go over their facilities, though. It was really cool. Went over to the clubhouse and checked that out. Saw the Payne Stewart statue and all that. But we played, if you get over there, Tobacco Road is probably my favorite course that we played over there. That course is awesome. Really, really cool course. Visually, unlike most courses you'll ever play, ever. Really, really cool course. And not really difficult either. It wasn't a real difficult course. Obviously, if you're spraying it everywhere, it can definitely be difficult. You get into the woods, but it's kind of cool. There's no out of bounds. There's no hazard. There's nothing like that. Everything's just kind of you play it out, or you play a lost ball or whatever. So that course was great. The other course that I like that we played is called Mid Pines. Also another fantastic course. Really, really awesome course. Loved it. But yeah, we played some other courses that weren't up to what those courses were. I won't mention what those are because I don't want to do that. But the 2 courses that we played that were really, really good were Tobacco Road and Mid Pines. Awesome golf course. If you get a chance to play them, highly recommend it. Greens were fantastic on both of those courses. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining me. One last thing here from Paul G says, I just received my PRGR, but it says Red Eyes Pocket. Is this the best one, i.e. black model? If you ordered the black and you got the red one, I would call them. You want the black one. The red one, I know that they were using the Red Eyes boxes, but they were putting the black models in the box. I think they ran out of boxes for the black model, and I'm guessing that's why they're using the Red Eye box. But if you got a Red Eyes monitor, then I would call them and tell them, hey, you sent me the wrong monitor, because the red one, the one that's actually red, I think that's for the Japanese market. So it's got some other things on it, like it tells you calories or something another, and supposedly it's also an inferior radar. I don't know that for a fact. I mean, when you break it open, it may all be the same, except it's just programmed a little bit differently. But that's just what they've told us, is that the Red Eye. So that's why you can find the Red Eye one cheaper, I think, in other places, and the black one's a little bit more expensive. So if you actually got one that is red, then I would be contacting them and telling them, hey, I want the black one. Let me see real quickly if I can get their information, because we don't actually sell the product. We provide a link where you can get it at a little cheaper price, and then they give us a little bit of a commission on that. Yeah. So, and we have a disclaimer on our page that the red model is an older model and not as good. And like I said, it's intended for the Japanese market. Let me see. So I think they have an email. So if you email info@amhsports.com, info@amhsports.com. If you got the red, box, don't worry. You got the black model with the red box, you're in good shape. But if you got a red box and the actual red PRGR, I'd be contacting them, let them know, hey, I want the black one, not the red one. I paid for the black one. Unless you paid for the red one, in that case, I guess you got what you paid for. So anyway, gotta go, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back here tomorrow, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.